Last week was Father's Day. And for those of you that have great relationships with their fathers, I hope you and your dad had a wonderful, wonderful day. I am not trying to take away from anyone's relationship with their father with the following episode that I'm about to share with you guys, but this episode is one that I was really pensive about posting or even talking about because it is still something I struggle with every day. A majority of the content that I post for this series are subjects and matters that I have dealt with through therapy, through my own, time and my own self-reflection. Others are subjects that I'm still working through. And my relationship with my father is one of them. So, hopefully this is something that I can express with fruition and with respect and not come off as being angry or bitter. But this is the one with my dad. Growing up, I guess you could say that I had what people would call the picture perfect life. My family looked like something out of an old 90s sitcom. It was like my mom, my dad, my grandma, and my sisters. And we lived in a normal, middle income style house. 3-bedroom, 1 bathroom, halfway decent neighborhood. Like, it seemed like a pretty decent life. Obviously, like everyone else, we struggled. We had issues. Money wasn't always great. But my dad was a great provider. He worked my entire life, my entire childhood, he worked. And so my mom was like the stay-at-home mom, like the happy homemaker, and my dad was the breadwinner. Throughout my entire childhood, I literally thought that I had the family that would always be together. I looked at my parents like this pivotal, relationship that I aspired to, that I wanted, because they were together for years. They got married, had their children, lived a really good, safe life. And I did not see anything in that I would not want for myself at one point. If my parents had any issues, marital issues, they kept it to themselves, because my sisters and I had absolutely no idea that their marriage was ever in jeopardy until the day I found out it was in jeopardy. Growing up, I was always the loudmouth child. It was 3 daughters, and I was the loudmouth, big mouth, pain in the ass. My twin sister was the much more conservative, quiet, sweet one. And then there was the little demon child known as my younger sister, who was kind of like a great 50-50 combination of the both of us. She was quiet when she needed to be, but she was a bitch when she needed to be. The summer before my junior year of high school, my life blew up. I was sick. I swear I will never forget this day as long as I live. I had been sick for like a week. I had been on the couch, sick, dying for a week. Over the course of several months before that, things started just to seem a little off. My dad always showed up for me and my sisters. If we did sports, I did theater a lot growing up, so he was always at every rehearsal, every show. My sister was a Girl Scout. He was like a Girl Scout troop leader. My other sister, she was involved in a lot of different organizations. He always showed up and was always supportive of everything that we did. Over the course of several months, it seemed like he wasn't showing up. He wasn't there. Or if he was there, he was in his phone. If he was there, he was leaving constantly to take phone calls, or he was making excuses why he couldn't be places. I knew there was something severely wrong with my dad when I was sick on the couch and I asked him to grab something from the grocery store on his way home from work because I didn't feel up to making the walk to the corner store and none of that. And he basically bit my head off. My grandma was like, well, what the fuck is his problem? And, we were all joking at the time, we made the joke that, maybe he's cheating, or, maybe he's being secretive, or maybe he's keeping secrets. And my aunt, God rest her soul, made a joke saying, oh, well, what if after all these years he's really gay and he's with a man on the side? And We were all like, oh, that's ridiculous. Like, the actual idea of my father cheating on my mother in any capacity was like a joke. It was like a punchline, because it would not have happened. It could never have happened. They were literally the picture perfect couple. They were like, it was like the Brady Bunch. Like, they were like the perfect quintessential, like, Catholic married family. Like, it was like something out of a fucking like something out of like a fucking like old school novel. Like, it was insane. So because I couldn't mind my own fucking business ever, and I was constantly, minding other people's business, I decided that I was going to find out what the fuck was going on. My mom, my aunt, my sisters, my grandma, we were all sitting downstairs one night in the living room, and we were all watching TV and talking and just, having a good time. And I said that I was going to go upstairs and I was going to go through my dad's phone and find out what his issue is, because he'd been acting so weird. So I Mission Impossible, Tom Cruise, army crawled across his bedroom floor, because he would go to sleep early because he was up early for work. So I literally crawled across the bedroom floor and took the phone off his dresser. And I knew his password, like I knew his code to his phone. I opened his phone and I saw the thing that I was really like not expecting to see, which was that he was in fact having an affair. He had been cheating on my mother for months. He had been having a full-blown relationship with another woman, and that is where he had been going. It's why he was late. It's why he was always so tired. It's why he never had time for us anymore. For months, he had been sleeping with another woman and had full intentions on my parents' 25th wedding anniversary to actually leave my mother permanently, but he wasn't going to tell her. Like, he wasn't going to prepare her for the financial burden that was going to put on her. He wasn't going to give her a fair warning. He didn't even have the decency to sit her down and have the conversation that they needed a divorce. He was just going to leave her high and dry. And like I said, my mother was a homemaker. From the time my mom got pregnant with us as kids, she stopped working when she got married, because that's what you did in the 80s. In the 70s and the 80s, you got married, you had children, you didn't work. As a woman, you stayed home, you raised your children, you took care of your household, you took care of your husband, that was it. So my mom didn't have a financial security net. She didn't have anything. All the finances was in his name. He was the controller of everything. The only safety net that my mom had was her mother. And only because my grandmother had like a bajillion credit cards and, got a check every month. So it was like, there was kind of a safety net in that. But you're talking about going from a income where he was making money for years and we were able to, live comfortably, to the idea that she was going to have to basically be a single mother with 3 kids. So I did the thing I shouldn't have done. And I went back downstairs and told my mom that he was in fact texting somebody else and that it looked to me like he was cheating. My mom took one look at me, and I will never forget this as long as I live. She looked at me and said, "Is the woman's name?" And it was her name. Like, it was literally her name. And I was like, how did you know that? Here, the woman he was sleeping with and having this affair with was the girlfriend he was with before he met my mother. So basically, he went and did, recycle bitch. Like, he went and recycled the girlfriend he was with before my mother and basically went back to her. So that night, I could not sleep because I knew what was going to happen. The next morning, while my dad was at work, my mom packed up all of his shit in trash bags and put it on the front porch so that when he came home from work, he would have no other option but to leave. I don't really remember much about what happened after that. I think I might have blacked it out. Like, I might have just, ignored it because I didn't want, I guess, the memory was too difficult. But I blamed myself for everything that happened after that. I blamed myself for every hour, every day, every year that we struggled financially, because when my dad left, he left. And legally, he was required to pay a certain amount in child support. Legally, went through all those channels and stuff. But it was really difficult for us because you're going into a time where me and my twin sister were going into our junior year of high school. So you're thinking junior prom, you're thinking, preparations for graduating high school. You're thinking about getting ready for college, applying for school. And my little sister she was like 12, I think. She had to be around there, but like she's, becoming like a young person. Like she's still in elementary school, but like she's going through her own shit, like, coming of age type shit. And it's like, meanwhile, we're going through all these motions and stuff that most young girls go through, like high school, middle school, stuff like that. And our family life's falling apart. And the one thing that we could always count on as kids growing up was that we could always come home and our parents were there. We could always come home and we had people to talk to. And it was at that point in time we were coming home from school, but it's like, you don't want to unload on your mom when her marriage is falling apart. You don't want to unload on her about your high school boyfriend, being an asshole because she just found out that her husband of over 20 years was fucking somebody else. So it's like, for a really long time, my sisters and I, we tried to handle our own shit by ourselves because we didn't want to unload on her. When my dad left, I knew he was the primary breadwinner. So I kind of took it upon myself to, want to help out and do stuff. So I got myself a little shitty job at the mall, working, I think it was American Eagle or H&M or one of those. And, we were still going to school. Everything was kind of still good, but I wasn't speaking to my father. I didn't want a fucking thing to do with him. My sisters and I kind of all agreed that we would just kind of, give him space, not really deal with him because, it was hard. Like it was hurtful. Looking back on it now, I realized that it wasn't just my mother whose heart was broken. Like my heart was broken. I always looked at my family and put them up on this pedestal like we were some kind of picturesque, perfect, like trophy family. And to have these high expectations of your father and to think of him as like, he's a great provider and he's a great dad, to go from that to basically him finding out that he's this completely different person, this person you never thought he could be. It broke me in ways I didn't think it would. And it wasn't until I was in therapy and stuff and, was talking it out that I realized what that effect it had on me. Because I blamed myself for him leaving, because I blamed myself for the divorce, I blamed myself for all of it, because had I just kept my fucking mouth shut and minded my business, we would have had more time with him. We would have had more time with the security net. We would have had more time with things being okay. So fast forward couple of years, me and my sister were in college, and my dad kind of tried to reach out and tried to rebuild bridges and try to rebuild a relationship. And I tried. I'm not gonna lie and say that I didn't try, because I missed my dad. I was so mad at him. It was like I couldn't even put it into words how mad I was that he did what he did. But I missed him. I had 15, 16 years with the man. I was a teenager. Like I had my whole life with this man, and it's like for him to leave and for me to have all these things happen to me without him being there, like graduating high school and going to college and being raped at college, coming out of the closet and having all these things happen to me. I couldn't talk to my dad. Like I couldn't tell him because I was so fucking mad at him. And I said, I can't go the rest of my life and not have some type of a relationship with him. So my sister and I had tried to, build a relationship with him outside of that. My younger sister had her own journey with him, and I'm not going to speak on that because I wasn't really home for it to know her journey with him. But I know, like, we all had our own individual struggle with it. We all had our own individual journey. So it wasn't really the same for all of us. But I can only say that I tried to build a relationship with him outside of, what happened and after everything happened. But I just couldn't, I just didn't have it in me to do it. I felt like he was trying to force his new wife on us all because, after my mom kicked him out, he ended up, being with this woman, and he's been with her. They've been married for years. They have like a whole family. He has grandchildren. Like he has a whole life with this person. And it's like, I'm not in a place where I ever want to be in that woman's presence. I can never bring myself to be around her and respect her. I can't be around her. I can't have that bond with her that he wants me to have with her. So I know as someone who is married, who is somebody's second spouse, from someone who is, a step parent to someone else's children. I didn't force myself on my own stepchildren. I didn't force myself into my wife's family. So for me, for her to try and force herself into my life, I don't have respect for her because I didn't do that. And so I can understand how difficult it is to be that person, to be the second spouse, to have to come into a relationship with a person who has children, who has a life, whose children are grown, whose children, you know what I mean? So our relationship never really got past that because I couldn't bring myself to be around her. And for me and for him, out of respect for him, that's what he wanted. Like, he wants a relationship with me, but he also wants me to have a relationship with her. So now, even as an adult, I really don't have much of a bond with him. I will say, when I got engaged to my wife and we were planning our wedding and everything, I've stated in other episodes, no one from my side of the family came to the wedding. My mother couldn't come, health reasons. My sisters didn't come for their own personal reasons. None of my friends came for whatever reason, but I was basically out there on a limb by myself. My dad offered to come to the wedding because he knew that no one else was going to be there for me. He gave me money so I could get my nails done for my wedding. He bought me my bouquet. He attempted to extend an olive branch with me so that he could be a part of my life now as an adult. And it's something that isn't easy because now, almost 2 years later, I've almost been married 2 years. So for me, it's like, it's been a lot of times gone by, and we speak semi-regularly. We try to build some type of a relationship, but I don't genuinely see myself ever being able to have that connection with him that we had when I was a kid. Because to me, like my mom forgave him. My sisters may have forgiven him. But I don't think I've ever fully forgiven him for what that did to us. I always internalized and blamed myself for the divorce. I always internalized and blamed myself for the hostility between my parents for years, because I said if I would have just minded my business and stayed the fuck downstairs in a child's place instead of going upstairs and going through his phone, I feel like things may not have been as dramatic and telenovela-y as it turned out. But in retrospect, I was blessed to have about 15 years with two amazing parents and a life that was something out of a picture book. And I don't regret the fact that things blew up the way that it did. I don't regret the fact that my parents got a divorce. I don't regret the fact that he got remarried. I don't regret the fact that I kind of quote unquote picked my side, because I feel like I picked the right one. At the end of the day, my relationship with my mother may be kind of, difficult and uneasy, but at the end of the day, I chose my mother. And if I had to go back and do it all over again, I'd do the same thing. I love my dad. I do. If something were to happen to him, I would be devastated. I love my father, but I don't fuck with him. Like, I don't like him. I don't respect him. Do I miss him sometimes? Absolutely. Am I willing to admit that I hope in some long, maybe not so distant future, we can reconcile our relationship and build something new, especially with me having kids and me, being happy and stuff now. But at the end of the day, the only thing I can say is, as an adult, once you become an adult, you're no one can tell you who in your family to fuck with. No one can tell you who to deal with. If you don't want to deal with your parents as an adult, you don't have to. Just because they're your parent doesn't mean anything. And it took me a really long time to realize this, because for years I was under this delusion that because someone is my parent or because someone is my family, I have to deal with them. I have to associate myself with them. And that's not true. If someone's unhealthy for you, whether they're your blood relative, a person you've been in a relationship with, a friend, anyone, you don't need to be around them. People have been telling me for years they think the reason why I have such toxic relationships is because I have quote-unquote daddy issues. And maybe listening to this episode, maybe some of you guys can agree or disagree. But the only thing I know is that I'm trying a little harder day by day, week by week, month by month, to just be the best version of myself. And whether that's the type of person that my father wants to be a part of, I guess only time will tell.